Having seen what is the pathology, the role of thymus, the role of antibodies, how do you classify myasthenia? Classification is helpful for further management. Depending on the age of onset, it can be congenital myasthenia, as the children are born with myasthenic syndromes, or neonatal myasthenia, usually a transient one, which is transmitted from the mother who is a myasthenic. Juvenile myasthenia is younger age, and early onset is less than 40 years, and late onset is more than 40 years. This will help us to decide the treatment modules. Depending on the thymic pathology, you can have myasthenia with thymic hyperplasia, with thymoma, and without thymoma or hyperplasia with a normal thymus also. Depending on the serological status, you have myasthenia which has acetylcholine receptor antibodies, the MuSK, LRP4, agrin, titin, ryanodine, and anti-striated muscle antibodies. So, that will also help us in deciding further treatment. And on the clinical presentations, can be just limited to the involvement of the ocular system. So, it is known as ocular myasthenia, or it can spread and become generalized myasthenia, where the muscles or other muscles are also affected. This is the latest classification given by the Myasthenia Gravis Foundation of America. It's a clinical classification. This is a modification of the older classification known as the Osserman. Here, it stages stage 1 to stage 5. Stage 1 is only ocular involvement, where stage 5 is patient needs a ventilatory assistance. So, stage 1 is only ocular. Stage 2 is a mild generalized weakness. It is known as 2A when it affects the limbs and the axial muscles, 2B when there is some respiratory or bulbar weakness. Similarly, it is a little more moderate, then it comes to stage 3, and generalized severe weakness becomes stage 4. 4A is only the limb and the axial muscles, 4B is bulbar and respiratory involvement, and stage 5 is tracheal intubation or mechanical ventilation is required. So, depending now, this classifications depending on the etiology, it can be neonatal. Infants are born with myasthenia gravis and with antibody. Then it can be autoimmune, where the IgG antibodies directed towards the postsynaptic receptors are present, or it can be congenital genetic defects in acetylcholine receptor subunits, or it can be drug induced, which is usually reversible, especially with penicillamines. They can have transient myasthenia gravis. So, what is the clinical feature of myasthenia gravis? The hallmark is the fluctuating weakness. The weakness which worsens over a period of time, and you have some specific muscle groups which are generally involved, which can usually the ocular, it can manifest as ptosis or eye movement abnormalities, and every time it is different. Nowadays, because the cell phone is available, patients can take a video of their features like the ptosis, whether it's partial, is fluctuating, how they look in the morning as soon as they get up, what happens around about 12 o'clock when they go out in the sun. All these now can be documented very easily because the availability of the video in small devices are cell phones. So, the onset may be sudden and symptoms are not immediately recognized as myasthenia. There will be muscle weakness and patient will say fatigue, oh, I walked for half an hour, that's why I am fatigued, I will sit down, rest, and then I will walk, so I will be okay. So, you never think it could be myasthenia. So, you will have to wait for some time before the features become more evident. Sometimes the facial appearances make you think that this patient may be sleepy or just depressed, no, because they have a droopy mouth, or partially closed eyes, ptosis, some facial weakness, they will be sitting like this. And sometimes because they have a hanging jaw, they will keep their hand also like this. So, you think that patient is sad, and sometimes we ask them to show us the old photographs, because they have a driving license, which is at least to some extent helpful in identifying their photographs from the younger age. Or now actually the cell phone is again helpful, where they can take the older photographs when they were a child or different age, and then they can show us. Sometimes this partial ptosis may be present much younger age, where they wouldn't have recognized it also. So, it is helpful to see old photographs and also some of their relatives to know whether it is familial or not. So, the symptoms are usually weakness of the eye muscles, when you know it is just an ocular myasthenia. It can be just drooping of the eyelids. So, ptosis, they can have diplopia when they have inappropriate eye movements, incongruent eye movements. They can have a change in facial expression because the mouth can droop, the eyes can be partially closed. They can have difficulty in swallowing and breathing. There is a dysarthria because of the involvement of the bulbar muscles. And in addition, they can have weakness of the arms, hands, legs, neck, etc. when the neck will be always flexed like this. So, coming to symptom analysis, ocular symptoms, this is going to be a symptoms. The ptosis can be unilateral or bilateral, usually asymmetric if it's bilateral, and can alternate over time, and it's not the same. Mornings they may open their eyes very well. As the day progresses towards the evening, you may find there's a worsening of the ptosis. This is known as diurnal variation, where in myasthenia you have fluctuations in the weakness during different parts of the day. Then they can complain of diplopia because the two eyes see in two different directions. Milder involvement, what happens is they are not able to identify diplopia, they find the images are blurred. So they can complain of blurring of vision or some bright halos around the objects. And because the ptosis gets worse when they go out in the sunlight, they generally prefer to wear glasses in bright lights. Even if it's inside the house, sometimes they are more comfortable with wearing dark glasses, because then there is less contraction of the frontalis as well as the levator palpebrae, so the ptosis is less. Patients can give a history of frequent change in glasses because of this blurry vision, which they are not able to identify as because of the eye movement disorder. So these are the ocular signs. I have shown you the ocular symptoms, these are the ocular signs. Cogan's lid twitch, that is, you ask a patient to look down and afterwards you ask them to look up, there is an overshoot of the lid, sometimes with a twitch, that is known as Cogan's lid twitch. Then sometimes they have super fast movements of the eyes to correct the positions, and that is known as ocular quiver. Enhanced ptosis, that is, if you lift one eyelid passively, the ptotic eyelid causes ptosis in the opposite eye. Passively lifting the ptotic eyelid will cause ptosis in the opposite eyes to be enhanced. Then they can have features of pseudo internuclear ophthalmoplegia. They have a overactivity of the frontalis when they try to open the eyes by overacting the frontalis. The peak signs, very interesting, because it is like as if you are peeking, no? Just like this, small eyes do not close fully, so partially a small bit is open, that's known as a peak sign. So you can see in this lady, there is a partial ptosis of this eye, and in this man you can see there is a partial ptosis. In addition, this eye is looking in different direction, this eye is looking in a different direction. Both of them with myasthenia are doing quite well. And you can notice the fatigability or the changing weakness of the eye movement as well as of the ptosis. Just observe this place for a short while, but you have to observe fully, see the position of the eyelids and how as she keeps moving the eyes and looking up, slowly there is a drooping of the eyelid. I think you will be able to appreciate it. See, the right eyelid, left eyelid, both have started drooping. The right eyelid has become much more than the left. You ask them to close their eyes for some time and then open, they may be in a position to open it better. Sometimes we ask them to do an ice pack, keep the ice pack on their eyelids, and then after some time open it, then they open it better. So you can see there is a progressive drooping of the eyelid which keeps increasing as the time goes.